Welcome to Chatsu-Nani. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chatsu-Nani. I'm Satsunami, and joining me today is my very good friend Greenshield.
Hiyo, good to be here.
And indeed my other good friend Adam.
Hello, also good to be here.
You're saying that now, Adam, but after what Greenshield and I have made you go through for this particular episode, you probably won't be saying that after the end of this episode.
I said that through gritted teeth. Good to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, just tapping out
Don't
more.
lie, you loved every moment of it.
Oh, no, you're true. I love them all. I love the gang, Tyson and Carlos. And
Well, before we get into it, Greenshield, do you want to explain what we're actually going to be talking about today?
Yeah, for sure. Today we are talking about Beyblade, or Bakuten Shoot Beyblade, as it's officially known.
I have never heard any. Well, obviously that is the name, but I've never
why
heard
did they go
anyone
with that title?
Yeah, like, can you imagine people over here being like, actually, it's that.
Oh, I did push my glasses up my nose. As
Oh God, I did as well. The anime push-up glasses thing. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah. For those unaware, it was a toy. I'm sure most are aware, but it was a toy spinning top game where you would battle against your opponent by letting it rip, pulling a cord, and your spinning top would battle against another spinning top in a bowl-shaped arena. And the last one standing won. It was created by the Japanese toy company Takara Tomy. They'd worked with Hasbro previously back in the 80s, making Transformers toys, and worked with Hasbro to promote the Beyblade franchise both initially and in 2008 to start a Beyblade revival. Since 2010, 90 million units of Beyblades have been sold. The Beyblade, as a term, is a portmanteau of the words Baigoma and blade. Baigoma as a traditional Japanese spinning top, which influenced the Beyblade's creation, and blade referring to the spikes and protrusions found on the tack rings of the first generation of Beyblades. Beyblades were based on the company's failed spinning top toy line, and they just added a customization aspect to that, which then instantly made it much more popular. And the toy was initially released in July 1999, which was then brought over to the West in 2002 by Hasbro. As a promotion for the toys, a series and a manga was created. There are 3 seasons of the original series, which we watched. We watched the original series today, the first and last episode of the first season. And in total, there are 154 episodes of the original series, going from January 2001 to December 2003. The animation studio was Madhouse, the same as the studio that made Death Note. You might remember I mentioned that last week. The story follows a team called the Blade Breakers who try to win a world championship with spinning tops called Beyblades, which hold beasts inside. Along the way, they make new enemies and allies. So that's a very brief kind of synopsis of the series. What we're doing today is a little bit different from the Death Note episode. The Death Note episode was a series review going through several episodes. We're doing a new thing today called First and Last, where we're going to have our newbie to the world of anime, Adam, watch the first and last episode of a particular series. In this case, the first and last episode of the first season of Beyblades. So that's what we're doing today.
As you were saying there, it really was a phenomenon when it actually hit the West, wasn't it? Because I wouldn't say it was the same level as like Pokemania, but it was probably in the same level as like Yu-Gi-Oh! And things like that. Would you agree, Greenshield?
Yeah, for sure. I have a little bit of a different kind of take in a way, as I grew up in Singapore at the time the Beyblade was becoming popular. And so I had a very kind of different kind of Southeast Asian kind of bubble of interest. Like there were big tournaments in the shopping malls. I attended some of those tournaments when I was younger. I was absolutely obsessed. I had several arenas, loads of different Beyblades, loads of customizations, loads of different, I don't remember the term for them now, but essentially the cords that let you sort of rip the Beyblades.
Rip cords.
I had the rip cords. I had loads of official and knockoff versions of Beyblades. I had so many different things. I was absolutely obsessed. I watched the anime constantly. I was really, really invested in the whole Beyblade craze at the time, much more so than the likes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Digimon, but probably akin to my interest in Pokemon.
No, I was definitely the same, because you honestly couldn't walk in the playground when I was growing up without like stepping over someone's Beyblade, or someone saying like, oh, that kid's got an all-metal Beyblade, which would have, honestly, these things like spun fast, but but they were more or less like a clump of plastic. You know, they wouldn't have taken your hand off, but yeah, if you had an all-metal one, it would have been like a dangerous weapon. But I'm actually curious, turning out on you, Adam, surely you must have heard of this craze, like at the time. Like, what was your experience with Beyblade?
So I have heard of Beyblade. However, I have never owned, I've never played, I've never held, and I'm not even sure I've ever seen a Beyblade with my own eyes. I remember hearing about it, and I'm sure there were some people at my school who were into it, but I don't ever recall it being the same kind of phenomenon at my school as something like Pokemon was, or even like Digimon or Yu-Gi-Oh! I remember those being much bigger. And perhaps I said I'm sure I remember kids talking about it, and perhaps I'm just forgetting. There were some kids with Beyblades and stuff, but it just wasn't anything that ever really registered with me. All I have to admit.
That's actually really surprising.
I know what to get. I know what to get Adam for his birthday now.
Yeah, I was actually going to say I didn't want to alarm you. I was just going to turn up at the weekend just with a whole thing of Beyblades.
Oh my
and just
god!
Like I'll just start like firing them at your door until you answer.
Yeah, you know that trope in a rom-com where he like throws like small rocks at the window. Just a Beyblade just shatters through the window.
Under attack.
with a note written on it when it stops spinning.
Yeah. Just reading it saying, "Let it rip." It's like, what does it mean? What does any of this mean? So yeah, as you said, Greenshield, today we're going to be taking a different approach and doing the first of our first and last series where, we tackled the very first season of the anime, which totally is not a plug, is it? For the toy. It's definitely its own wonderful, heartwarming tale about a boy and his plastic cheap toy.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed this before, but the show is obviously made to sell the toys. They cater a lot of the episodes around specific different variations of the toy. And I know I don't remember if the original series did this as much. Probably it did, but I know in the most recent series, Burst, a lot of the time when there's going to be a new variation of a Beyblade coming out, that Beyblade will be in the series and it will win. Like they'll make sure that character who has that Beyblade wins. So everyone's like, oh, it's the one that won. I need to buy that one. So there's a lot of very gimmicky Beyblades that are advertised and sold via the show.
So what you're saying is this is like the anime equivalent of wrestling to sell more toys and things. They're like, if this Beyblade wins, it's gonna be a top seller for Christmas. Although then again, like you were saying earlier, the sheer amount of Beyblades that they've actually sold for this series, I honestly haven't seen a Beyblade in years, like a physical Beyblade.
That's funny you say that because they are back in fashion at the moment. If you go into any toy store, I'm sure you haven't had that many occasions to go into a toy store recently.
Don't you presume about my life?
But if you will find Beyblades in there, either the arenas or the toys themselves. Like every time I go into a store over here, they have them well stocked, so you can still readily buy Beyblades. I'm just
next week we're all going to buy a Beyblade and review it.
Yeah, mine spins very fast. It goes. I'm just thinking back to like when we were growing up and how popular it was, because you know how some things are literally just a niche for like kids, you know, like they'll go away, they'll play with a particular toy and then it kind of like fades away and no one really pays attention to it. I always remember watching, and this is showing my age here, but I remember watching Blue Peter of all things, and they were even getting into the Beyblade craze by like showing you how to like make your own Beyblade arena and things like that. So you could definitely tell how widespread this was. Some say phenomenon, others say spinning epidemic.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because there was a lot of controversy surrounding Beyblades. In lots of schools would ban them for various reasons. One of which because people were getting hurt by them. Even just the plastic ones spinning super fast with sharp edges. Like if that hits you, or if you try and stop a spinning Beyblade, like you're gonna get, if not a cut, at least it's gonna scratch you and it's gonna hurt. So like there was a lot of complaints from parents and from school, just at school boards and that kind of stuff about Beyblades being brought into school, and so there were many schools that banned them.
Do you know, I'm hearing the creaking right now of like the Beyblade fans, you know, that grew up with this series, leaning back in their chairs going, oh yeah, I did that when I was younger. And I've still got all 5 of my fingers.
Well, pulling up their sleeves and being like, oh, here's Gar, my Beyblade scars.
Beyblade made me the man I am today. Yeah.
I did actually have some of my customizations had metal components.
I had one
of which was a spark disc, and so if it connected with another Beyblade that had a metal aspect, the sparks would fly off of it.
Jesus.
That tell us was the early 2000s.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, the closest I got to that was like, this is going to sound so, oh, look at me, but I remember I had one where it was like the launcher that you fired it from had like an antenna coming out of it, so you could change what direction the Beyblades could go.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really cool. It wasn't very accurate. Like, you pushed it one way and it would like
I bet
forward,
not.
and you push the other one and it would just go into like, you know, the bin at the side of the arena to knock it out. It'd just be like,
oh,
yeah,
that was always a disaster.
oh.
And that never happens in the anime. It always perfectly lands in the arena and doesn't immediately fly off or go into the little bin bit. It is always perfectly in the arena. Even when the arena's like tiny, they always get it exactly in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is not true to how it actually happens when you're playing.
Yeah. See, before we jump into like the main discussion, can I just say there is nothing more depressing than being a child and challenging someone to a Beyblade battle. You've got it ready, you're about to fire it, and then either it doesn't fire or it just falls off the like launcher pathetically and then kind of slowly slides across the arena, and you've got the other kid with the shit-eating grin saying, oh look, I won, and you're like, I don't like Beyblades anymore.
And the other thing that would happen a lot to me is the ripboard with one of the little teeth, because it's kind of like serrated on one side, that one of those would kind of screw up a little bit and then it would jam while you're trying to like rip it, and so it just wouldn't rip and you'd get jammed or the cord would snap or something. I had so many snapped cords. Usually the knockoff ones would snap very quickly, but
oh yeah,
even the official ones I had a lot of those ones break.
See, Adam, do you see what you're missing?
I know, I can't believe it. Like all these fun times I missed.
Well, don't you worry. You know what? We're gonna go away right now and order you some. So listeners at home, yes. So we will be right back after these messages. But until then,
one with a mystical dragon in it.
Yes, exactly. So come on, Greenshield, let's go find him a Beyblade. Welcome to Chatsu-Nani, a variety podcast that talks about topics from gaming and films to streaming and general interests.
Previously on Chatsu-Nani, we discussed Game of the Decade, Deadly Premonition, the romantic thriller, Birdemic, and listen to us get all sappy as we discuss our top 5 Christmas films.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can find us on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, and all good podcast apps. As always, stay safe,
stay awesome, and most importantly,
stay hydrated.
We are Beer and Chill Podcast.
Podcast where we review TV shows, games, movies, and whatever else takes our fancy.
So what are you waiting for? If you're a cool kid like us, you're gonna listen to the Beer and Chill Podcast. You can get it anywhere from Spotify all the way to your grandmother's radio. My name is Jan.
And I'm Craigie C.
And we are
Beer and Chill.
Okay, and that's it ordered. So, yeah, while we wait for Amazon to deliver those tomorrow, Adam, would you like to tell us your... Oh god, I am really excited for this, by the way. But, yeah, what were your impressions of the first episode?
Do you know what? Watching the first episode of Beyblade made me retroactively appreciate Death Note even more. Because I didn't have a clue what was happening in this first episode, to be honest. It was literally like being thrown into the deep end of a pool here. A lot of stuff to kind of gather up, try and get your head around very quickly. But yeah, so anyway, will I try and do a little synopsis of the first episode?
I dare you to
sure.
speed run it.
Oh, here we go. I'm ready. I'm ready, boy. Put me in, coach. I'm ready for this. So anyway, well, we begin with our intro song, and I don't think it was as good as the Death Note intro song for me, but
Ooh.
I know you have more fondness for it than I. So is there anything you guys want to say about it before I get going?
I have a particular fondness for it, and I'd asked Satsunami prior to the recording. I was like, I just want to kind of get a gauge. Is it purely nostalgia why I love this song? Or is it actually a very good song?
Yeah, it's a bop.
Satsunami responded, "It's a bop," and like I think it is. I think it's such a fun song. I think it's such a it's so cheesy, it's so easy produced. It was made by it's called Let's Beyblade, and it's by Sick Kid featuring Lucas Rossi.
No way.
I know if that's not the most early 2000s thing that you've ever heard, I don't know what is. It is just so wonderful. If you don't remember it, or if you've not watched the series, look up on YouTube Let's Beyblade intro and listen to it. It's so much fun. It's such a good jam. The accompanying visuals you get of like what's happening in the series is just, it adds to this whole experience of like what is going to go on throughout the series. The weird Beyblades, the dancing Beyblades, the strange characters, everything has a gimmick, and the song is just so much fun. But what are your impressions of it, Satsunami?
Oh no, yeah, that I would like to reiterate, it is indeed a bop. Because that's what you were saying there, it's like definitely like an early 2000s kind of song. If you look at other animes at the time, like I think when I was talking to you about this, I compared it to any Dragon Ball fans out there, you'll remember this one, Rock the Dragon, which was literally just a guy saying, hold on, I think I've got the lyrics here. Dragon, Rock the Dragon, Dragon Ball Z. But they just kept repeating it to like this really kind of upbeat, funky tune. And it's kind of the same here, where it is just like repeating the same, like, you know, beat over and over again. And it is. It's like a guilty pleasure.
A little bit of the song from Let's Beyblade. Picking up speed, running out of time, gonna head to head, it's a way of life. You gotta fall down, meet ground, get back up again, let's Beyblade. And then the chorus is, let's Beyblade, Beyblade, let it rip. Like, it is awful and amazing at the same time. It is that perfect kind of combination of, it's just so stupid and so like centralized to the show, but like you couldn't just listen to this as a song. Like that doesn't work. Whereas like there are certain anime songs you could just listen to because it doesn't just have the name of the product or the show is constantly repeated throughout the song. Like you could listen to the Evangelion intro. You could listen to the Death Note intro. You could listen to Hunter x Hunter kind of thing, or Hunter x Hunter. You won't just listen to the Beyblade one, like unironically.
Well,
like,
I am gonna interject there when you said like you wouldn't listen to one where it repeats the product. The first Pokemon theme was a bop as well, and you know it. But
yeah,
that's the only exception.
I guess even that one, I feel like it does say Pokemon in the chorus, but like it still feels like it's not just like shoving it in your face. It seems a bit more subtle.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, going back to Beyblade. Yeah, actually, what did you think of it, Adam?
I mean, one thing I'll say is that the song was my favourite part of watching it. Beyblade.
No way. Really?
Surprisingly, given the quality of everything else. But no, the song was my favourite part. I did kind of like seeing all the fun stuff. I mean, none of it has anything to bear with the first episode. Some of it, I was able to pick up a few things in the final episode. I was like, oh, there we go. There's that person or that thing, that Beyblade. But yeah, no, like it was, again, I think it's that thing that like just hearing it for the first time now in my late 20s, it probably doesn't resonate with me as much as it would have, you know, if I'd heard it at the time. So yeah, like I don't know if I'm the best judge to say like it's bopability, you know, because I'm a fussy old man now, so
yeah,
I don't like these kids things.
Yeah, I was going to say yelling at those kids to get off your lawn with those
Get off your
Beyblades.
fucking Beyblades. Ruining my grass.
Just stomping on any Beyblade battles you see. Poor kids.
My foot is all sliced up now.
That's why we don't do these episodes in person anymore.
That's why I'm doing it from a hospital bed right now.
There's a more recent series called Beyblade Burst, and that has another intro, which is much more contemporary for like what the music like that is enjoyed about now is like. And I know that's really popular. It's not my kind of thing. It's kind of a mumble rap kind of style, which isn't my kind of thing, but it's very popular at the moment, especially in North America. That one I've heard quite a lot recently because of various streamers and whatnot who discussed Beyblade have talked about that intro and played a little bit of that intro. And if those at home and you guys too after the episode, you should listen to it and sort of see what you think, see if you find that more appealing than the old school one.
I'll have to check it out because I'm definitely going to check out more Beyblade stuff after this.
Yeah.
It's my appetite whetted.
Well, I can't wait for... I was going to say, I can't wait for the Amazon man to turn up to the hospital with like 10 boxes of Beyblades. It's like, sir, please, we need buy. It's like, I don't care. This man needs his Beyblades, damn it.
Using the bedpan as an arena.
Why is that the most disgusting yet brilliant idea I've ever heard?
You genius.
You utter genius. It's like, sir, please stop using the bedpans. Well, stop using them for that. Anyway, moving on. Adam, so you were saying about the first episode. Yes.
So episode 1. Right. I think this is the first scene, but the more I think about it, the more I think I've imagined it. So please tell me if I've completely got this wrong. But I swear the first episode starts with some mystical kind of mumbo jumbo where they talk about like a mystical dragon or something. Does that happen in the first scene? It does happen.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
Oh, that's
They got to set up the lore.
I can't. Yeah, exactly. This is why I got so confused. I can't remember what the hell the narrator said at all. But there was a mystical dragon, and so it sets up there's some mystical shit in this universe. So then we cut to an old man and his grandson practicing with, is it kendo sticks? Is that what those things are?
Yeah, it's kendo swords.
Kendo sticks, yeah. So the grandfather is trying to like instill like discipline into his grandson, and to get him to train with these kendo sticks. But the grandson really doesn't want to. He's got other places to be. He's got other things to do, which we'll soon find out about. And so he keeps trying to escape, but the grandfather keeps like tackling him to the ground and like dragging him back in. But eventually the grandkid gets away. And this is our eponymous title character called Tyson, who, as far as I can tell, is wearing some bad Ash Ketchum cosplay. He's got places to be and things to do, which he says is homework, but we all know, the grandpa knows, and we all know it's not homework.
He's going to do some hard drugs.
He's going to do some hard drugs called Beyblades. So he runs out of the house, and he's on his way. He's got to make a very important appointment, but he gets accosted by 3, I think they're meant to be kids, although like the main leader of the kid looked like he could be in his late 20s.
Yeah, he's a Hollywood kid.
He has a very bulbous nose, and he looks like bad Brock cosplay.
You say bad Brock cosplay. I know that I sent a picture of that exact character to Satsunami while I was watching it, because he is spot on, like dressed exactly like Gone Freaks from Hunter x Hunter, which is another one I've mentioned it several times, both in this one and in the Death Note one. It was one of Satsunami are my favorite animes, and he is dressed almost exactly like him, color coordinated, the hair, everything. He's just much fatter looking with a bulbous nose. And so I was like, why is there like obese Gone Freaks on my TV right now? But yes, it is a very bizarre character, and he's got 2 like henchmen with him.
Did that come up? Did this come up before that show Hunter you were talking about, or is this after?
This is after. Well, the anime for Hunter x Hunter was like 1999, but I think the manga was before that.
Yeah, so there was, I mean, we're digressing away from Beyblades, but very quickly,
I don't think Adam minds.
Please continue. Please, for the love of God.
The Hunter x Hunter manga came out in, I believe, the early to mid 90s, and the original anime came out in the late 90s or early 2000s, and then that only ran for a little bit, and then there was a reboot of the anime that was kind of closer to the manga that came out in, I think, 2011.
Yeah.
But the manga is still running technically.
Yeah.
It's known as hiatus x hiatus for a reason, because the creator keeps
hiatusing it,
putting the manga on hiatus.
Unlike Beyblade, which seems to be continually going. Yeah,
Beyblade will not stop spinning. It is a spinning top that just continues going. It is like that. It is like that one in Inception. It's just continuing going, and we're stuck in that dream.
Yeah, as Adam like carefully watches it and thinks, "Come on, fall over, damn you!" and it just won't fall over.
I'm looking forward to the Christopher Nolan directed Beyblade movie.
Oh my god! Now that would get me interested. I'd be all over that.
One thing as well is, when they're doing the kendo like practice, the grandpa says that like there's this like magic sword or like ancestral sword they have that Tyson's gonna inherit on his birthday, and like Tyson's like, ugh, a cool ancient sword? No thank you. And I was like, what child sees a cool like ancient weapon that they're gonna get to be their own own thing, and is like, no thank you? If you guys were offered a sword when you were like 10, would you have been like, nah, I'm going to play with spinning discs? I'm like, no, I'm going to wave this sword around.
No, if I had a Beyblade, then, screw everything else.
Yeah.
I don't need ancient mystical weapons, thank you very much.
We
Well,
we grew up in the 90s. We just like lumps of plastic and catchy theme tunes. Our brains have rotted, so we no longer need cool swords.
To be fair, it does seem like every fight is conducted via Beyblade battles in this universe. So I wonder if like the concept of a weapon is completely invalid, because like what's the point of hurting the other person? You just hurt their morale by defeating them in a Beyblade arena.
Well, someone gets backhanded. I mean, I'm getting way ahead of myself here, but someone in this episode does get backhanded, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, he had that coming though.
Yeah, but he did that without the Beyblade.
You don't know. His hand could be concealing a Beyblade.
Oh, that is true, actually. It's just like it's
an advanced let it rip form.
What, the backhand Beyblade technique?
I love this lore.
Yeah. So speaking of lore, Adam, feel free to continue.
All right. So Tyson's been accosted by these three quote unquote children, who drag him to a playground, and then before he can carry on with his important errand, the leader says, "You promised me that we'd have a Beyblade battle." So Tyson agrees, and then one of the kids proceeds to give a massive exposition dump. What Beyblades were, how the competition works, and all these rules. I was like, wow, this is a subtle way to get this out. But you know what? It is important context, so you know what? Fair enough. So they proceed to have a Beyblade battle, which Tyson handily wins, because he is the Beybladist of them all. Is it a verb? I don't know. Let's just
It is now.
It is now.
He believes the heart of the blades.
He wins. Exactly. So he wins, and then he dashes off. He realizes how late he is to get to his appointment, because he's actually going to, would you believe it, another Beyblade battle with this person called Andrew, who Exposition Kid tells us is the leader of a gang. He's a legend in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I noted Andrew is a legend in this neighborhood, and that is something that is often said about me. So.
There you go.
Do you not have issues with this character?
No, I have no issues with this character. In this audio only format where you can't see what he looks like, he's great and he's a legend.
Yeah, whatever you do.
So many issues.
Just don't look up what he actually looks like.
Yeah, don't Google Andrew Beyblade. Whatever you do, do not Google it. Or do, you know. I'm not your Beyblade parent. Go. Maybe
I'll come up as like the junior Singapore Beyblade champion or something.
Oh my god, imagine that. But instead of your face, it's just his face plastered on.
Oh my god.
So yeah, Adam, why do you have an issue with Andrew from Beyblade?
So, well, let me tell you. So Tyson sprints off for his rendezvous. We then cut to the top of a tower where Andrew is, and Andrew is now going to be fuel for my nightmares. Because he is very tall, lanky, and with very gangly limbs, and his face is the literal stuff of nightmares. I don't even want to describe. I'm not even going to try to describe.
He looks like handsome Squidward.
It freaked me out more than anything I think I've seen in a long time, and I've literally been trying to repress this memory.
To be fair, he does look like the love child of Jack Skellington in a Peanut. I mean... He's just, of all the design, like, anime is well renowned for like having wacky and weird designs. Who designed him? Because genuinely, like, I honestly, I do not know how anybody could have drawn that and said, that's okay. Or maybe they did. Maybe they drew it and said, who cares, it's Beyblade. This is never going to take off, which probably was the thinking. The whole show, or really the whole first episode, is nightmare fuel for that, though.
Pretty much, actually.
Well, what's kind of weird is that Andrew looks so different to everyone else in the show as well. Like, even in the next episode, in the final episode, which we'll discuss, like, where it pans across this, like, great collection of weird and wacky characters, none of them look like Andrew's design. Like, they all have like more consistent design with the rest of the animation, whereas Andrew just looks very different. It's very bizarre. But yeah, I'll be honest, I was expecting worse. He actually didn't look as bad as I remembered him looking when I watched it 6-7 years ago.
No, he still looks terrible.
Don't justify. I can't imagine watching this as a kid. Honestly, God, I can't imagine. That would have scared the crap out of me. It's like a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old.
One thing I noted about the appearances of a lot of the characters, a lot of them seem to have whiskers, which isn't new to anime. There's lots of animes that kind of have like that kind of whiskery kind of cheeks. But several of the characters looked like they had whiskers. Like Tyson has like kind of a Z kind of pattern on him, but there's one character, I think Carlos, that definitely looks like he has whiskers.
Oh god.
Oh god, I forgot about Carlos. Yeah, Adam, I'm throwing it back to you here. Do you
Oh,
want? Do you
back
want?
to me.
Yeah, let's talk about Carlos. What's wrong
Let
with him?
the circus of freaks continue.
And where are his parents? More importantly.
So Andrew is waiting for Tyson, and people are disbelieving that Tyson will show up. But Andrew knows Tyson won't miss a Beyblade battle.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually somebody does show up on the roof, but it's not Tyson. It is. I don't even know how to describe this character. It looks like a 45-year-old man, and he has this giant sack with him, which is we don't know what it's filled with. It looks like he's just come out of prison. And his name is Carlos. I can't remember if we actually find out his name at that point in the episodes. Let's just say we do. So it was Carlos. And then he reveals that he's been collecting Beyblades. Like, he's been, like, challenging people. Is this... Okay, anyway, I'm just going to presume this is revealed here. But anyway, he's been collecting Beyblades by challenging, like, Beyblade owners and beating them in battle and taking their Beyblades, which is what's all in this sack. He dramatically
He's a Beyblade shark, as they call him.
He's a Beyblade shark, exactly. The lowest form of scum in this universe. And so he challenges Andrew, and Andrew, like, accepts his challenge. And then we cut back to Tyson, who has like managed. Oh, Tyson actually. So Tyson like sprints up the stairs and arrives, and he's like, "I'm here, ready to battle." But he just arrives just at the end, just as Carlos has like defeated everybody on the roof and taken their Beyblades, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, he's wrecked us!" And so then Tyson and Carlos go at it, and there's a war of words, and it ends up with Tyson trying to challenge Carlos to a Beyblade battle, but this other kid keeps like kicking Tyson in the shins and stopping him from like making his formal challenge. So eventually, like a challenge is made for Tyson and Carlos to fight the next day, the next evening, and then Carlos departs. Oh, as well, I've got to go a diversion here, because Carlos laughs a lot at this point, and it is the creepiest laugh. It's so weird because I can't explain. It's like somebody who's like heard recordings of laughs but has never been able to actually do one themselves. It's really unsettling. But yeah, so he leaves. He shuffles off with his Beyblades, and then Tyson learns that Carlos's Beyblade can't be beaten, and this kid has this laptop which has this like really advanced AI in it, which like analyzes Carlos's Beyblade, and they discover that it's made of some like really heavy alloy, which means that basically it's extra stable, and like it's impossible to like for a normal Beyblade to like knock it out of the arena because it's so heavy. And they work out that to knock it out, you'd have to make an extra fast Beyblade that is 4 times as fast as a normal one to have any chance of winning. And so, this is the conundrum that's up, and they need to figure out how to make this Beyblade. Have I missed anything here? Because I feel
no, yes. So far, so good. I mean,
yeah, I just want to get back to that laptop, because the laptop appears to be kind of thirsty for like humans. It seems very very interested in the humans. It calls Tyson like a cute boy. In a later episode, it's like it talks to the chief who owns the laptop. He goes by the chief, and it asks like, when are we going to get some alone time?
Are you sure this is an AI and not like a Discord call that's like open on his laptop?
Well, I'm a little bit concerned for the chief's safety, to be honest. I feel like this is going to get very dark very soon for our children's show. So I'm a little bit concerned by this AI, which has a very adult woman's voice, and you just have to wonder what the voice actress was thinking when she was recording these lines.
Yeah, I mean, if this AI was a character in this show, she would definitely drive a van around that said "free Beyblades" on the side of it.
Yeah, she's particularly problematic and interested in tweens. But also, speaking of the chief, we talked about in a previous episode of Chatsu-Nani about lip flaps and like making sure that the dialogue matches to like the opening and closing of the characters' mouths, and how studios, when it comes over to international distribution, they have to edit the lip flaps to make it make sense with the new English translation. They do not bother for much of this, especially when it's the chief's lines, who he's just opening and closing it like some like Muppet character with sound coming out from like some ventriloquist artist that is like 5 miles away, trying to sort of communicate about whatever's going on. The lip flaps in particular are some of the worst I think I've ever seen in anime.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Sorry, just before we go on, it reminds me of, do you remember those fish you used to get in the 90s, the singing ones? They would hang
It
on
is
your wall.
exactly like Billy the Bass.
Exactly, yeah. It's like just their mouths opening, but they're not, again, yeah, the lip flaps don't match at all. And it does feel as if they thought, screw it, it's Beyblade, no kid's gonna watch this. Or if they do,
no,
it's gonna...
no one cares about this. Why
Yeah.
should we try? Which I'm being a little bit harsh because I'm sure they did try and did adapt it, and it was a different time period where there wasn't as much interest in anime at the time, whatever. But it doesn't age well. They like modern anime is generally much better done. Not I don't watch dubbed animes much anymore, but I know it is generally much better done.
So, Adam, how does Tyson beat Carlos?
So, after much soul searching and like group thinking and pondering the question, Tyson comes up with an idea that if he lengthens his ripcord by
No, go on. Sorry.
So if he doubles the length of his cord,
I swear to God, I'm a mature adult.
it'll give his blade more speed, which it does, but it only gives it 2 times more speed, so it's still too slow. So then the mystical dragon shows up again and charges through Tyson's window and like barrels into him. But then he wakes up and he's like, "Oh, it was just a dream." And he looks out the window again, and the dragon comes barreling back through again, and then like goes into his does it go into his Beyblade, or does it just like
Yeah.
around and scare
It goes into like the core of his Beyblade.
Oh,
which,
okay. It goes.
The implication, so this dragon was like housed in the sword that his grandpa was trying to give him, and it had been passed through his like ancestral line, where they'd obviously been using this to like win like countless wars over the centuries, and so a very proud, noble dragon that is now inside of a plastic spinning toy used to defeat like dweebs in this children's hobby.
What a downgrade.
Yeah, like it'd be like if you like discovered like an ancient genie or something, and it was like, oh, now I'm gonna put your power into my like Tamagotchi.
Get out of that lamp. It's my Beyblade.
The dragon sort of hears his like his cry for like needing to defeat his enemy, and he's like, "Oh, I must help another member of the whatever Tyson's family name is in his battle," and so bonds with the Beyblade.
Tyson Beyblader. Or Tyson Ketchum, as Adam pointed out earlier.
When Tyson proceeds to train and look like a dork,
he just pratfalls. Yeah.
Yeah. It cuts to his grandpa, and his grandpa is just kind of like, look at this silly bastard. And like,
I taught him that move.
Like the grandpa just gives like no shits. It's just so funny. It clearly is like what a grandpa would be like seeing like you playing with like the latest hit toy. Like,
sorry, just before we kind of go on, like to the conclusion of this craziness, can we just talk about the grandpa for a second? The fact that he speaks, or rather he exudes fellow kids vibes, like the way he talks. He keeps saying,
oh, he calls him dude all the
he's
time.
like, "Hey little dude, come on, keep your head in the game, come on." You're like,
well, like,
is this child safe?
I get the feeling that the original Japanese was very different to the American relays, because I don't feel like, because it's very like a skater to early 2000s culture of the way he speaks. He sounds like Cheech and Chong trying to like communicate with people, like a California surfer grandpa-esque energy, like a hippie in the 60s. Whereas in Japan, that they didn't really have that same mentality. So I get the feeling that there was a very different kind of attitude, but I mean, I could be reading that wrong. I didn't watch the original Japanese cover of this or version of this, so I could be wrong there. But it does not seem like that is the case.
No, I can't imagine that this was a faithful translation somehow. I definitely think liberties were taken. So yeah, Adam, how does this episode end?
Right, so we get to the fateful battle down by the river under a bridge, as for your illegal Beyblading tournaments, I'm sure are held, and Tyson's there and waiting. And then Carlos shows up with his big bag of Beyblades, and then they get set up, and Carlos is like, "I'm gonna take." Oh yeah, I meant to say, Carlos. So if Carlos wins, he's gonna get Tyson's Beyblade. But if Tyson wins, not only will he get Carlos's Beyblade, but everybody else who lost their Beyblade to Carlos will get their Beyblades back, because Tyson makes his big speech about Beyblade as being a community, and doing it.
It doesn't seem wholly fair. No. I mean, I know this guy is like conned his children out of their Beyblades, but one Beyblade for like 100 doesn't seem like a great deal for Carlos. I mean, he's probably very confident that he's going to win, but like in the off chance that he did somehow lose, like you've lost so many for the chances of getting one. Like, it just didn't seem like a good deal.
Yeah,
and like
I think
and also
Shogun
like
must have the sword.
why didn't these children just beat up Carlos? Like there's a whole bunch of them.
Because he's a 40-year-old man. Just out of prison. He's not gonna like a pocket. How do you pull these Beyblade? I don't
He'll
think he
pull
actually
a particularly
Beybladed them.
spiky Beyblade out and shank you.
Exactly.
Switchblade is the Beyblade. There's no difference in prison.
You don't know what the prison
that's how he got
Beyblading
out.
tournaments are like.
That's how he got out of prison with a Beyblade.
I heard about this illegal prison Beyblade fights. They're ruthless, man. So they get set up, and Carlos takes the usual position of standing close by. And he's ready to let it rip. But Tyson takes like about 10 steps, maybe 20 steps back from the arena, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And then Andrew, the stuff of my nightmares, counts down the tournament, and then what does he say? Is it let him rip? Is that like the thing they say for like
let it rip? Yeah,
let it rip for starting it. Tyson begins to run up, and he takes he launches himself into the air, does a spin, and this is how he's going to. And then the chief works it out what he's doing, and this is going to give him that extra like 4 times speed. And so they both launch their Beyblades into the arena, and Tyson's is that fast that it's able to like disrupt Carlos's and knock it out of the arena. And Carlos can't believe it, and then Carlos tries to make a run for it. Can't remember if he falls over or something like that, and drops blades. And Tyson is victorious, and order is restored.
I can tell you that it would have been a very different story had I been trying what Tyson did, because it definitely would have ended up in that river. Because like running up from 20 yards out, then jumping into the air and like letting it rip, you have no control over where that Beyblade is going. There's not a chance in hell that is like at all like going anywhere near the Beyblade arena at that point. This Beyblade arena is like the size of like a dinner plate. You're right next to a river. It is going in the water. You are never seeing your Beyblade again. That dragon is gonna like end up like on the beach, like the game of Jumanji, where it's just like doo 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 doo, and then someone picks it up, and the new Beyblade craze starts like at the end of the world.
Yeah, see, to be fair though, I don't think he was aiming for the arena. I think he was aiming for Carlos's face. Because if you listen closely to the dub, you can distinctly hear him say "prison rules" as he launches it. So, I mean, maybe he just missed. I think that was his plan, and he accidentally hit the arena and thought, "Shit, I've got to play now. I got to play." Well done, Tyson. You worked it out. Yeah, worked it out. Yeah, and then he gets backhanded by a anime antagonist.
A mysterious stranger shows up who we find out is the leader of the... Oh my god. He's the leader of a gang, and I've instantly forgotten. Are they the Beyblade Sharks? No.
Yeah, Bay Sharks or something.
Bay Sharks, that's it. Mm-hmm. He shows up, and then instantly Tyson impetuously challenges him to a Beyblade duel, and that's how the episode ends, with them both about to launch their Beyblades at each other.
I noted that the mysterious tween with face paint arrived, and like bitch slapped Carlos. Kai is like as Satsunami said, every like anime antagonist, every like rival that in anime. He's the Satsuke. He's not Gario.
Gary is normal. Yeah, but Gary's normal in comparison to Kai. Like Gary's like a normal kid with like brown hair and an ego. This guy like has a... I mean, how long is that scarf? What the hell is up with him?
Yeah, he's like the most like main character energy of like anyone you've ever seen, with like the crazy colored hair and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, he is. It would stand out in a lineup. That's all I'm saying. If it was like between him and Carlos, you would definitely tag him as like the leader. Before we move on to the next episode, out of 10, how would you rate this episode, Adam?
Oh, I'll be generous, and because I know it is obviously a lot to set up. And like, you do have to quite quickly. It is a kid show, so you don't want to like hang around and explain a lot of things. You need to kind of get in. So I'll be generous. I'll give this 5 out of 10. In that, like, I thought like I was very confused, but I wasn't bored. So, I wasn't sitting there being like, oh god, I wish this would end. I was just more like, what the hell's going on here? And I was like, okay, there's some interesting stuff. One thing I'll say is, I don't know how you guys are. You guys are both more anime aficionados than I am. I thought like the actual artwork itself in this episode would just, I don't know, maybe it's just from what I've seen. Again, I've only seen a limited like sample size, but when I compare it to Death Note, I'm like, god, this just looks ugly. I'm sorry. And those characters are disgusting. Like, oh my god. Like Andrew and Carlos are just seared into my brain.
They are not the worst I've seen in anime.
Oh my god.
Satsunami will be aware of this as well, of the ugly bastard in anime.
Which one was that again?
No, it's just a term for fat, gross looking men who are like perving on girls.
Oh yeah.
And like it is a big trope in anime and anime related material to have like these really ugly kind of characters. But in defense of Beyblade, it is a animation style. It is not like the Death Note style is a different different style. It is it's not trying to look like Death Note. It's trying to look like its own thing. But there is a lot of frames which are really bad, and like a lot of the characters do look gross. I won't defend it too much, but I will say that you can't necessarily judge objectively with anime styles like that. Like Death Note is a very particular style, and it's a bit like looking at like Pokemon and Death Note. Like Pokemon looks very different to Death Note, whereas Pokemon's more akin to this.
That's a fair point. So I won't judge it too harshly for that then. But yeah, like I think my main criticisms then are just like I was just so goddamn confused. I had no clue what was happening, and like yeah, but as I said, I wasn't bored, so I was like, okay. I mean, if I was watching this series normally, I think I definitely would have watched at least the next one. I can't guarantee how far I would have gone into the series, but I'd have at the very least watched another episode. So I guess in that way, it did its job.
And speaking of another episode, go on.
Oh my god.
The final showdown.
The final showdown, episode 51, the end of the first season. So when I was watching this, I watched this episode a couple hours ago. I wrote down, before I knew I was going to have to describe what happened in the episode, I wrote down a list of 16 questions about what happened in this episode. So I'm going to try and describe what happened in this episode. I'm going to say things out of order. I'm going to miss things. So please, if either of you want to jump in and go for it, or pick up something that I've missed, please just feel free. But anyway, so we open up and the very first line is, "Oh no, what happened?" And I was like, how appropriate for my experience of this. But anyway, so we open up. We're in the middle of this massive stadium, which I believe is in Moscow, if I remember them hearing correctly.
Yeah, I think I also heard that. And I actually questioned that. I almost went back to check, and I was like, I'm not going to bother to go back and check. I'm just going to believe it's Moscow.
I'll just take the word for it. It's snowing. It must be Moscow. I saw somebody wearing like a big hat. I'm like, it must be Russia. I'm guessing this is some kind of national, like, global tournament Beyblades, which was a big surprise from having the first episode just watching kids like flinging Beyblades around in like playgrounds and by the river, to all of a sudden this being like this global phenomenon which people are like crowding in to see.
Yeah, I found that to be very interesting after watching the first episode as well, because we had that kid doing the exposition dump to his friend who had never witnessed a battle, when it seems like the Beyblade in this universe is like the #1 sport in the world, and everyone is like very, very interested in Beyblade. So it's like, how have you managed to ignore it? It's like, oh, I've never seen someone kick a ball before.
To be fair, though, the audience is mainly made up of kids. Like, even in Moscow, there are, like, loads of kids like, whoa, this is the best thing ever. And it's like, yes, you're literally 5. How did you get a ticket for this event? Where are your parents? Where are any of your parents?
Do they know?
Did the free Beyblade...
St. Petersburg Primary School did a day trip to the Beyblade Championship.
What, did the free Beyblade lady give them a lift? Like, what is... Anyway, sorry, small nitpick. So sorry, what was your next question, Adam?
So in the middle of the arena, there is this massive, like, ice... Oh, I don't even know what it is.
Iceberg glacier.
Iceberg, Iceberg, the massive glacier in the middle of this, like, of the arena. And we discover that Tyson is inside it, and so is the person that he is battling, who I believe is called Tala?
I have no idea.
I did note it down. Where did I note it down? Yeah, Tala, Tala.
Tala. Good. I got some things right, at least. And what I mostly noticed about Tala was that his jacket had handles on the shoulders.
Yes.
That was
his hair looks like an Air Force badge.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, he's very distinctive looking. And anyway, so apparently within this glacier, they have entered another dimension, which looks like some kind of ice world thing, because Tala talked how Tyson is going to like freeze and everything. But somehow, even though they've entered another dimension, a TV camera has also managed to enter that alternate dimension.
I made that exact same note. How is this TV still filming? And B, like, how are they communicating everyone? Because like at one point Kai like shouts something and Tala responds to him. What, like, how is this working? And like the way it gets phrased, that they shattered the time-space continuum when their Beyblades crashed in the previous episode. So their plastic toys with gods inside, essentially, clashed, which shattered the time-space continuum, creating a pocket dimension that's apparently got a blizzard happening in it. And Tala just explains it to him. Like, of course this happened. Like, we've clearly warped into another dimension, you stupid fuck. Like,
you've never done a Beyblade battle before?
Yeah, clearly you've not been in a serious Beyblade battle where you've destroyed space and time. How many battles is this guy having? I mean, he creates he creates a small sun later. So like I guess this is just like another like Friday night for him. Like he must realize the scale of the situation that he is in right now, even if he is supremely confident.
Also, they really need to get some standardized rules for these Beyblade competitions, because throughout the first episode and this last episode, people are able to have like Beyblades made of like special alloys. People are able to like lengthen their ripcords. People are able to do like running like kicks, like jumps to start things up. People are able to break space and time, and none of these count as disqualifications. So they really just need some kind of committee to standardize the rules and say what is allowed in a Beyblade battle.
Which is strange, because in real life, when I played Beyblades as a kid, they banned loads of different types from the competitions. Like I had pieces that I couldn't use in any kind of competition.
Oh, really?
Because they were banned. Yeah.
Space-time continuum then when you were...
No, I couldn't break the space-time continuum, and I tried several times, and the official was like, "No, you've destroyed all humanity on Earth. That's not allowed." And I was like, "Oh, fine." But the anime said I could.
Bunch of killjoys.
I know exactly.
Bunch of killjoys.
Boo this man. Boo.
I had my high collar up and everything.
Did you have handles though on it?
No, that's where I was lacking.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, as well, like my next question, the Beyblades are still spinning at this point. They're just like kind of like moving around by themselves. So I became very confused. I was like, are they sentient? Can they operate without like their owners like actually setting them off? But I think that's kind of answered because we find out that there's like things like spirits trapped inside them. So I guess that's why they're doing that. But that was quite confusing when I saw that.
This is probably answered in the course of the series. But in Tyson's case, a spirit transfers from his family's ancestral sword into his Beyblade, which becomes his beast or whatever it's called. That surely did not happen hundreds of times to various competitors. Where are their beasts from? What is the connection there? How have they become attached to their Beyblades? Like, I'm almost interested enough to continue watching the rest of the show to see if it answers that question. And I emphasize almost. I'm not going to, but. But I am very intrigued as to how this has happened so many times in this universe.
But can you imagine like cleaning out your grandparents' house or something, and then all of a sudden you knock over like a teapot or something, and then a lion
knock over
pops
their
out.
ashes.
Yeah, and then a lion pops out. It's like, I want to be in your Beyblade. It's like, oh my god, I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh fan. I don't care. I'm in your Beyblade. It's like, it would just be terrifying. There must be a surplus of like spirit creatures out there.
Well,
That's what I was going to say.
in Japan, there, and I mentioned this a little bit in the Death Note episode, and I couldn't remember the name of them at the time, but Japan has a history or a mythology around what are known as yokai, which are essentially kind of like spiritual beings which can inhabit like objects or people, or just kind of create corporeal forms to kind of fit in with society. And there's a real cultural interest in yokai in Japan. There's lots of games centered around them, and lots of comics and idea. And like, I don't know if Shinigami from Death Note classifies yokai, but quite possibly they would. But the yokai, this kind of yokai element is very connected to the beasts in Beyblades.
So, what the hell was happening in this episode again? Yeah, so we find that Tala says that, like, important point that Tala says is that as the owner weakens, their Beyblade weakens. And so we find out that, like, Tala's Beyblade is filled with, like, tons of these, like, spirits, which, like, begin to overpower the one that's in Tyson's Beyblade. And, of course, his, like, physical strength is failing because he's, like, freezing to death here. So things are looking dire. And there are so many characters here, and I'm not even going to try and, like, describe and explain half of them, because I obviously had no clue who half these people were. One important thing I did notice was that the gang leader from the end of the first episode is now on Tyson's team. Is that Kai? Is that what his name is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kai, the leader of the Danger Beyblade gang from the first episode, now part of his friend group, which kind of, that's another kind of trope in anime of like your rival becoming part of your gang. Like in Dragon Ball, you have Piccolo and Vegeta and Yamcha, and well, Yamcha wasn't really a rival necessarily, but and then you have like Sasuke and in Naruto, and there's loads of kind of instances where your rival kind of becomes part of your group. Even Pokemon, like even Pokemon, you have Misty and Brock, who are gym leaders, who become part of Ash's kind of traveling gang. So that's a clear trope in anime that they're kind of continuing with this.
And there's a lot of people rooting for Tyson, but like they're really concerned about this. One of the people like tries to karate chop his way into the glacier, but fails because obviously it's a glacier. And so lots of people are like really worried for Tyson, but there's also some people who are on Tala's side who are nefariously dressed in like trench coats and like goggles and everything. And they begin talking about how when Tala wins, they're going going to then be on the next step to world domination, which made me think, how the hell does winning a Beyblade tournament lead to world domination? But perhaps explained in that previous episode.
I also know that exact thing of why is winning a Beyblade tournament lead to world domination. And did you notice what the name of this evil organization that Tala is part of is
the
called?
Dark Side? Is that the Dark Side? Is that who?
No, they're the Demolition Boys.
The Demolition Boys, of course, because the logo appeared up. What a name!
Yeah, like in the title cards and like the ad card, it flashes up Demolition Boys during the episode. It is just spectacularly terrible. Again, why does winning a Beyblade tournament lead to the end of the world? What does this mean? And if that's the case, why aren't like more government officials involved in like this entire like endeavor to make sure that this doesn't happen? Because clearly these are weapons of mass destruction, these Beyblades.
That's such a good point, and that's something we want to come back to later as well. This idea of Beyblade being the most powerful weapon in the world. But we cut to the sands and we see Tyson's granddad is there, who's sitting next to the Monopoly Man. And then further up in the stands, Dracula is sitting up. Beyblade Dracula is sitting up there, also talking about world domination and I honestly can't remember their names. I'm sorry, but like I think Beyblade. I'm going to call him Beyblade Dracula. I think he's in charge of some corporation or like company or something like that. Also, I began to wonder. So Tyson and Tala are inside this glacier. There doesn't seem to be an arena anymore. So how is anybody going to win? Like what happens? What do they have to knock the other person's Beyblade out?
I think I presumably it's when they stop spinning. Yeah, because it's not just about knocking your opponent off of the arena. It's whoever is spinning last. Like the majority of victories in Beyblade isn't knocking someone out. It's left standing kind of thing. But yeah, it pans over to this very regal looking villain guy at one point, and he's like, yes, he's clearly like the head honcho. Because I thought the guy with the goggles was, but then I realized it's this guy who has like
up in the stands.
Yeah, who has a fantastic like stupid name. It is Voltaire. And I think he's just like a businessman, but my initial thought was he was like a member of some sort of royal family, which made me think of like the Queen attending like a Beyblade competition and how wonderful that image was.
Oh my god. We've also got our commentary team, and like one guy is just saying it sounds like your regular sports like announcer, you know, for whatever sport you're listening to. The other one sounds like a goblin, so I don't know if goblins in this universe or not. He's got very high pitched.
I didn't notice that one.
But we never see what they look like, so there we go. In my mind it was a goblin. But then the Dracula who's head of the corporation, he starts talking about how when Tala wins and he takes Tyson's Beyblade, he's also going to get Tyson's mythical beast, and then he's going to control all these mythical beasts, and then he's going to be more powerful than any of the like militaries in the world. So that made me think like, why is, as you said earlier, why is like the world governments allowing this thing when apparently Beyblades are like more threatening than like nuclear bombs or cruise missiles or like conventional like militaries? Like, why are they letting these tournaments go ahead where people can like gather all this power?
It's like the Pokemon argument. Like, why do you let these 10-year-olds have these weapons of destruction? Like, this does not seem like a good idea. Like, why do children have this like the greatest power like imaginable?
It was a different time, you know.
They're in the 2000s. We didn't know.
Yeah, it was a time when you let your children play with dangerous world-ending animals.
I had noted that the screen pans over to someone in hospital who's watching this tournament happen, and he
looks like Tyson. I thought it was Tyson.
He looks like a cat. He's like a cat man, and he's got like his cat girlfriend there. And I listed Yin and Yang boy is in the hospital for some reason, likely injured in a freak Beyblade accident. Those things sting when they hit you.
Is that your detective hat on there?
Yeah, I figure that must have been what did it. But he does appear. He was in hospital like 2 minutes earlier, like in a hospital bed. And then he's at the arena to watch the remainder of this fight, which is nonsense because like a Beyblade fight should only last 30 seconds. But apparently he's able to go from hospital to the arena and it's still going on with a crutch. So I call shenanigans personally, but
maybe he split the time and space continuum as well with his Beyblade.
That's true. Maybe time is kind of stopped and he's able to get there. One thing that's worth knowing about this other dimension thing is I would be supremely interested to know if that exact phrasing was used in the original Japanese version, because as Satsunami will know, Western dubs often like to use the phrase another dimension instead of other aspects like death. I mean, I'm not saying they died or anything, but it might just be a mistranslation, because quite frequently, in example Yu-Gi-Oh, when someone dies, they get sent to another dimension, and likewise in Dragon Ball Z, and they don't die, they get sent to another dimension.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, that would make sense. But
Yeah.
then again, what else could it be? Unless it's like they're going for the
They're
Inception.
they're in an igloo. Like if an igloo is formed inside of an arena and you're fighting inside the igloo, like you're not in another dimension. You're just inside the ice. Like, why is that formed in another dimension? It doesn't really make sense.
Can you imagine that though? If that was like the original Japanese translation, where it was like, "We're just in a giant sheet of ice. I don't know how we got in here. My God, Tyson, I'm scared. Pull me out of my misery." And then it's like, "Yeah, this is too dark. Let's change it to alternate dimension." Okay, you're good to go. Let's just broadcast it.
It's a completely wrong translation, and he like forms the sun in there just to warm them up so they both don't die.
It is really heartwarming.
It is very heartwarming, quite literally. I did know as well with the design of Tala with his like high collar. It's a very clever design in that it hides his lips, so you don't have to animate the lips moving when
Nice.
when you're doing the lip syncing.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, so another faction shows up to support Tyson. Which is this the Dark Brotherhood, who look literally like ghouls and vampires?
I know they look like the Universal monster movies, shared universe.
Basically, yeah, so they show up to support. And then Tyson, at this point, Tyson realizes the secret to win, which is that you just need to have passion for Beyblades. Tala doesn't have that passion, so Tyson's like mythical beast is able to like kick the crap out of all these ones in Tala's mythical beast, and then they like break the glacier, refix time and space, I presume, or maybe it's just permanently broken now. I don't know. But they come back to the arena, and Tyson's able to win and like knock out Tala's Beyblade, and then there's a big pitch invasion. So there's no event security here. Then the Monopoly Man.
Sorry, did you know how Tyson won?
He stabbed him.
Well, his dragon just starts flying at the like big sun thing that Tala's created, and then just like absorbs the energy and then like fires it back.
No, see, what you're clearly missing, Adam, is that he won with the power of friendship. Because as Tyson notes, he has everyone behind him helping him win.
It's a stadium.
And so the entire stadium like cut like it like does that weird kind of effect where it like cuts all their faces into screens, so they're all there, and which is just the most anime thing you've ever seen. And like you've not had as much experience with anime, but the power of friendship is, of course, the power of friendship is generally the way that everyone wins.
Oh my God, there we go.
I'd also noted that at one point Tyson's grandpa, everyone's like concerned about Tyson losing, and then he just goes, "Oh well," like he can't give less of a shit. Like,
if that was your grandchild, though, if that was your grandchild who was like falling in his arse, you know, in the mud in the first episode, like, would you be like, finally, a chance to get rid of the brat? And then when he wins, I mean, at the end, he attacks him with a kendo sword, for goodness sake. He's like, "Oh, it's good that you're alive from this alternate dimension. By the way, I'm going to beat your ass with this kendo."
Fast.
Yeah, that's it. Think fast. It's like, what? What was your problem? Old man who speaks like a 90s/early 2000s child.
Yeah, I'd also noted about Tala having the power of the sun. Doesn't seem particularly fair against a plastic toy.
Yeah, I mean, it was global warming. It was a different time. Yeah. They didn't have rules back then, you know.
We weren't to know.
How could we know, you know?
But yeah, Adam, you were saying about the Monopoly Man, who I've noted his name is Dickinson, which is just wonderful. So Voltaire and Dickinson have their back and forth.
Which also as well, the Monopoly Man is so rude that doesn't actually turn to face like Voltaire for the first part of his like soliloquy. But basically he's like, "Oh yeah, now we've got the evidence. We're going to bring you down." But despite the fact that they've gathered all this evidence, they don't think to like bring him to trial before the tournament, you know, to head off this danger. And also as well, they don't think to arrest him. Like they just let Voltaire leave, even though they're like, "We're going to see you locked up." He's able just to walk out. So there we go. I guess I got to set up for some sequel bait. Yeah, and so then Tyson's so happy he's the Beyblade world champion now. But then, oh no, like the power of friendship instantly breaks down as everybody's like, "Right, we're coming after you. We want that world championship." And then and then as you were saying, Satsunami, his grandfather's like, "Right, time to go back to the kendo stick training."
Before that, though, did you hear how Dickinson ends his little dialogue?
No.
He says, "Enough of him, let's rock."
Oh yeah.
which is just the best way to end a conversation. And I want that to be like my go-to now from now on.
That's how you know how to end this episode now. So
That's how I intend to like end emails, like business correspondences.
Yeah, and enough of the rest of this analysis. Let's rock. See, just in that note, before we do wrap up though, just one thing I want to point out, because I've been listening to your back and forth intently, and there is one thing you have both missed out, which I am very surprised at. When they're in the iceberg of death, you touched on it, Adam. You were talking about the dragon coming out of the Beyblade and talking to him, you know, like never-ending story style, comes out and is like, I try you, you know, like yelling at him. And he has like this very, you know, deep, respectful voice of, I came out of your Beyblade to fight, you know, all of this. What does Tyson say to this, you know, ancient dragon that has seen its fair share of, like, you know, centuries over the years? Wicked. That's all he says. And that had me absolutely in stitches the first time I saw that. Because I'm like, yeah, this ancient dragon, you're not impressed by ancient swords, literal ancient creatures in front of you, and you just say wicked. Tyson, you don't deserve this Beyblade. You really don't. He was the one who deserved to be trapped in that ice for eternity. They should have just ended it in a cold, like a Sopranos cut, just fade to black.
Wicked, and that's how it ends.
Wicked, and that's it. Yeah.
Shining style, it cuts to Tyson just frozen.
Well, with the Beyblade in the snow. Yeah.
One thing I also noted was at one point when we were having that conversation with like the spectators and contestants and of the tournament, we pan over a group who are in different sports regalia who I don't remember that much about the Beyblade series, but I remember them so vividly. And one in particular, essentially their gimmick is that their Beyblade is associated in some way with their sport. Mm-hmm. And so the one that I remember the most was the tennis girl, because she'd throw, I think, her Beyblade into the air, then like serve it onto the arena, and he couldn't deal with this like particular person, and it was just the most bizarre like series. I think it was like a battle tower, and they had to like proceed through the Beyblade battle tower against like each of them, and like the tennis one he was like particularly struggling with. And we also see the Latin American like salsa dancer one, who I remember like plays his guitar, and like he like his guitar is his like his ripcord, and like he like when he plays the guitar, the Beyblade like dances to the beat, which is very hard for him to match. And you see a little bit of him in the intro song. There's just such a wonderful cast of characters that you pan across from across the series, and you see them all at the very end where they all want to battle Tyson after he's just, as you say, he's just come back from another dimension and they're already wanting to battle.
And then instantly starts up like there's like the MC of the tournament who's like been doing like narrating the final battle. Anyways, he just instantly like he's on like not a fork.
Cherry picker.
Cherry picker, that's the one.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's let it rip again. It's like instantly starting up again. There's like no recovery time at all.
I noted that the announcer or referee, whatever he is on a cherry picker and just immediately is like refereeing this unsanctioned street battle.
Brawl with everybody.
Yeah, and we also have one of the main characters who you weren't introduced to in the first episode, but you introduced to, I think, in episode 2 or 3, Max, who's like this blonde, very spunky kid, and Max just goes, "Don't forget about me," and I was like, no one can forget about you, Max, my glorious child. He's just so full of energy and just wonderful. Everyone loves Max. Best character. Do not steal.
Was that not a sitcom? Everybody loves Max.
It should be.
So, just before we finish up, Adam, I've got to ask, out of 10, what did this episode rate compared to the first one?
Oh my god! I mean, I don't even know how to score. To us, I don't know how to score this one. I have no clue at all, because honestly, God, like I compared like the first episode, like diving into the deep end of a pool. This was literally like 3 people just came and like threw me into the ocean and held my head under the water while an octopus like attached itself to my face. Like, I got ripped into another dimension. I have no idea how to score this one at all.
How many Beyblades out of 7?
I wasn't bored. I wasn't bored. Again, I wasn't bored. I'll give it... Oh my god. Do you know what? For the pure novelty of... I was like, what the hell is going on here? I'll give it 6 mythical creatures out of 10. Because I was just like, what is going on? Like, it was all in my face. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, again, very confused, but never bored. There you go.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's actually a lot more generous than I thought you were going to give.
I've kind of warmed to it, having like, I don't know if I think if you'd asked me like straight after, I probably would have given it like a 3 or something. But like remembering back and then hearing all the stuff again, I missed everything, and thinking about the Monopoly Man's made me smile.
So what you're saying is, as soon as we finish this episode, you're going to go away and watch all of the other series of this.
I'm going to start picking random episodes in no particular order. Just dive through Beyblade that way.
Yeah,
That's the way to watch series, I've realised.
I've introduced you to a new medium of entertainment of just skipping through episodes.
I just want to give you a quick warning. There is an episode like later on in the series they do a bit like well, no, maybe not like Pokemon, but they do maybe like Digimon. They do the thing where they eventually replace Tyson with like other kids, and like not your favorite character,
not my boy Tyson.
Yeah, so we have like 3 seasons of this Beyblade series, which I believe is always Tyson, and then I think we go into Metal Fusion.
Yeah, no,
which is another series. I think in like 2008 or 9 or 10 or that kind of time.
Yeah, I was long gone after that.
Yeah, and then we have the recent one, which is Beyblade Burst. I might have missed one in between all those. I think those are the 3 main series that people are aware of. I've not seen Metal Fusion or Burst, and I'm not even confident I watched past the first season of this Beyblade, but I might have done. It's almost impossible to say. I remember this finale very well from having watched it. I rented it as a kid for Blockbuster and rewatching it today and in university.
That is true. We did watch a lot of this. Well, not a lot. We watched a couple of episodes and then we turned it off, didn't we? And just skipped ahead to the end, which is...
We watched 2 episodes of the start of the season, then we watched the very last one, which is what inspired this entire series.
Exactly. Which I am so excited to find more anime with you, Greenshield, to show. Yeah. To show a very regretful Adam. But
I mean, I can refuse to believe I can be any more confused.
All I'm saying is that don't be surprised when you see Moses using a Beyblade to part the Red Sea. And before people think, oh, Satsu, you're being, sacrilegious or whatever.
That is Beyblade lore.
That is actually Beyblade lore. That actually happens in the show. They show a
Why
still...
didn't you show me that episode?
Because I don't
I
know
don't
what
even know what
episode
episode that's from. I've only seen it on it.
Find it.
Yeah.
No,
No, that is like what I was getting at earlier. Like, as soon as they go, it's the usual progression of these kind of shows. They go from, oh, we're playing with this toy, oh, look, buy it in stores, to catastrophic apocalyptic situations and deep, rich lore. It gets crazy. It really does get crazy. So, yeah, next week, of course, we are going to be going on to the next season of Beyblade, clearly, because you enjoyed it so much.
I was hooked, to be honest.
Oh, clearly. Yeah.
Let it rip. That's what I say now.
And on that note, should we just wrap up and say, rock on? Is that what he says? Rock on? I've forgotten already.
Enough of this episode. Oh, let's forget this episode.
Enough of him. Let's rock.
Enough of Beyblade. Let's rock.